Hello and welcome to the Nashville Daily Podcast. I'm Stuart Deming.
And I'm Aaron Pennington.
Even though Nashville's growth slowed just a touch during 2022, Tennessee as a whole has grown more than ever.
If you drive to other mid-sized cities around the U.S. and wonder what's different about them than there is Nashville, we have part of that answer for you.
Plus, we'll tell you which roads not to drive on in 2023.
We'll talk about all of this and more on Nashville Daily. It is a new year, a new place of where not to drive, and
basically all of Nashville.
Just
Just avoid it and be a hermit.
Yeah, so we're going to get even more specific of places not even to think about driving this year, and that will probably stem into next year and the year after. It may not even happen this year.
Or 25 years from now.
That's the case for one of these places. But this also could mean places you want to avoid moving to because of construction. And if you want the latest and greatest on who to talk to who knows Nashville, because he is here in Nashville, has sold over $200 million in real estate here in Nashville, knows the area extremely well, and that's Brad Reynolds. You can contact Brad at thinkbrad.com. See his YouTube channel, all the amazing insights that he gives on there. You can also text or call Brad at 615-856-3270. He was on yesterday's episode, which is funny. We're talking about Tennessee population today. He actually brought some good insight to the podcast yesterday, and said Nashville's population as a whole shrunk just, that microscopic bit last year. But Tennessee as a whole, we're going to give it a little bit of an update for today. But if you want to reach out to Brad, you can find him over at thinkbrad.com. If you're thinking Nashville, think Brad.
All right, so the U.S. Census Bureau has just come out with some data about 2022 and the impact it had on the state of Tennessee. This is coming from Fox 17 News, and it goes on to say, U.S. Census Bureau data released last week shows Tennessee's population grew by the largest total since 2008 or 2007, and the 8th largest total in state history. According to the data analyzed by the Tennessee State Data Center, all those weird names, domestic net migration to the state was 81,646 in 2022. The increase means Tennessee is estimated to have a population of over 7 million now, becoming the 15th most populated state in the country.
We've been saying 7 million for a long time.
I've been saying 7 million for at least a year.
Just because it's easier
than 6.8 million.
Yeah, but good to know we're over 7 million as a state. Nearly, how many of that is in Middle Tennessee? Probably half of that.
2 million.
Is
a little bit over 2 million.
That's just in the county surrounding Nashville. I'm talking Middle Tennessee as a whole.
Probably closer to 3 million.
I'd say almost 40 to 50% of that population in Middle Tennessee. The total increase of population was from July 1st, 2021 to July 1st of 2022. This was the 7th highest in the nation, ranked behind Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, South Carolina, Washington.
That's an interesting throw.
It's probably Eastern Washington. Utah and Idaho. They rounded out the top 10 in numerical growth during that same time period. So net migration is based on how many more people moved into the state than out of the state, and is also affected by state deaths recorded versus births. So that's interesting. So
math.
It shows not just Americans moving into the state, as 8,000 new residents came from international countries as well during this time period.
All right, so that's cool.
Which really fits in. 1 out of 10 Tennesseans are international.
Yeah,
I believe, is that the stat?
Yeah, 1 out of 10. Yeah,
and 8,000 out of the 81,000.
That's about 10%. That's it's a good statistic to keep going by. Tennessee is also seeing the lowest unemployment numbers the state has ever seen. And I have a little demographic or map from the state of Tennessee, and it's not updating the numbers. So
you could plug your computer in and we could see it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
But yes, Tennessee has one of the best economies in the United States right now, and the unemployment rate is good, especially in times of recession. It helps to have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the United States. Hopefully, we can keep it during this next year as low as humanly possible. But what are the numbers for Tennessee?
Well, so this map that I'm seeing is not as of late 2022. It's as of March 2022, and we are at 3.2%. I believe the state right now is about 3%, which is the lowest it's ever been in state history. But what's really interesting is all of these businesses are moving into the state, and you're wondering to yourself, where are they going? Because there may not be spaces available for these businesses to move into.
Well, I will say that Nashville makes really good use of the space that either is available or isn't available, or somebody just says, knock, knock, is that land available? Let me build. So one article coming from the National Business Journal talks about the kind of industrial vacancy rate. And so this is something that I have noticed going into other mid-sized cities. New Orleans was the first one that really struck me when I went there after living in Nashville, and seeing the differences is so many abandoned buildings in New Orleans and even other cities that are doing pretty well, but you see so many buildings are not occupied at the same rate that Nashville's are, and that's because there aren't many that are either not being worked on, or if it's been sitting vacant, it's being used or demolished. But according to the Business Journal, they're reporting on something from a report from CommercialEdge, but they said that Nashville has the lowest industrial vacancy rate among the nation's top industrial markets. So at the end of November, I'm guessing 2021, only 1.2...
Or 2022.
2022,
yeah,
yes.
We're in 23 now.
We're in 2023.
Yeah.
At the end of November, only 1.2% of Nashville's industrial portfolio sat vacant.
Wow.
Which tracks commercial real estate data nationwide. This company that produced this report, the highest vacancy rate of the 30 cities surveyed was at Houston, surprisingly, at 7.2%. That's very interesting.
Interesting. So yeah, it talks about the other cities that came in. Let's see. Music City had 9.8 million square feet of industrial space, which includes warehouses, distribution factories, under development at the end of this year's third quarter, according to CBRE.
Atlanta, surprisingly, also fell just behind Nashville.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Nashville and Atlanta both had the two highest rent growths of those two markets, or of all of these markets that are here for industrial rent growth. 6.6 for Nashville, 6.6%. And so it's very interesting that we have the lowest occupancy rate or vacancy rate versus the highest rent increase. Shows a good, healthy relationship right there. You know, as unfortunate as it is that rent is increasing that much. Music City has, this doesn't sound right.
I just read that. Yeah, the
9.8 million square feet of industrial space.
No, there's probably way more than that.
Doesn't sound right. Amazon alone
has over 1 million.
Feels like has that much in Nashville.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
All right, so let's talk about some local Nashville food. I had the opportunity to eat at the Euro place inside of the farmer's market. Do not ask me what the name is because I cannot remember. I think it's just called Euro.
I can't
remember.
Euro, Gyro, that amazing place. It's in the farmer's market. But yeah, so I got the combo plate. Had chicken, beef, rice, some kind of salad, and the bread, and oh my gosh, it was incredible.
Yeah, mine had the
and the rice
bread.
was my favorite.
Mine had the pita bread, salad, and then I did the falafel.
Yes,
which is a fun word.
It is a fun word.
Falafel.
As a kid, you're like, I don't know what it is. It reminds me of a waffle. I just know it's not a waffle.
It's not a waffle. So today's episode is brought to you in part by Screened Threads. If you're looking for one of the best Christmas ornaments in town, you can use the code Nashville Daily to take 10% off in person or on the line. And we're going to show you this Christmas ornament. This is a hand-painted Christmas ornament. You can only get it at Screened Threads.
Ooh, very nice.
They are the only ones in the world that have this ornament.
Yes,
So
we
if you're
know it's
looking
not
for
Christmas time.
Yeah,
but
I know,
you can still get
you
it.
could still get it because they have a limited supply for the rest of the year, and then they have to wait back until October until they get more. So head to screenthreads.com or visit them in person. Use code Nashville Daily. Take 10% off.
All right. So we are going to talk about the unfortunate topic of how your commute is going to be disrupted in 2023. We are going to be the negative Nancy's. I don't think we've ever been the positive Patties about traffic here in Nashville, so it's something you should expect. No positive news about Nashville traffic is ever going to be talked about. The only time we ever came close to talking positively about Nashville traffic is when we talked about the $26 billion that's being poured in to Tennessee infrastructures that include things like these new lanes that the kind of toll lanes or pay lanes, or I can't remember the term that they use for them.
Toll lanes.
Yeah, to speed up a little bit, but 10, 15 years until we were probably really seeing any kind of benefit for that. And by that time, the population and cars will double on the road. So that's all fun. But we're going to localize it to Nashville. 2023 has a few projects in quotations because some have been projects are supposed to happen for a while. We're going to talk about the ones that are going to probably, you want to know where to not drive so you don't accidentally end up here at these places, because this you'll kick yourself for driving to these places, and you shouldn't have because you heard it here on the podcast.
Well, the interesting thing is all of the places we're about to talk about, we have talked about here on the podcast multiple times, just not in one consistent episode.
Yes.
So now we're bringing it all together for this one piece of episode. And the first location that we're going to be talking about, we have Greg in a parachute in downtown Nashville.
Nice.
Right now. And he is above the railroad tracks and the Broadway Bridge.
It's relatively dry after the rain this week.
There. Yeah, I don't know how he's doing this right now, because typically that area floods really bad. But what's really interesting is we talked about this bridge, and there was estimates that this bridge was going to be shut down for multiple months at a time. That's still happening.
Can we throw Greg into Street View? I want to see what that area looks like.
We're dropping you. Oh, he made it. All right.
Nice soft landing.
There's the Grand Hyatt Hotel. There's Union Station. And here is the bridge. There's the McDonald's. There's that gas station.
Because a lot of people might think bridge on Broadway.
Greg, what
we're
did
under
you just do? Greg.
So a lot of people may think bridge on Broadway, but they think the one that goes over the interstate.
Oh, this is so old. Look at that. That building doesn't even exist. Greg.
Wow.
What are you doing?
He's time traveling. He's taking drugs.
You're just struggling. All right, so we talked about this one quite a bit, and initially this was supposed to be shut down for up to, I believe, 6 months at a time. So
I can't remember when initially this was supposed to. Was this supposed to be a pandemic project
it was.
Prior to that?
Yeah, and then they delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. So this is coming from the Tennessee in Nashville, 73-year-old Broadway
Viaduct Bridge.
Crossing 11th Avenue is being replaced, and it will be closed for traffic for 8 weeks.
In 2023 to allow for a complete rebuild.
That's a long time. Early construction.
This was more than they, I think, were anticipate doing.
No.
In 2020.
In 2020, it was going to be 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Initially, so they're changing a few things. Early construction work on the project started in September. They've been doing cone and land surveying and all this stuff. Traffic will be reduced to 2 lanes in each direction in January, so sometime this month.
So look for that
early
real soon.
February during construction of supports for the new bridge and demolition of existing sidewalks.
Oh, okay. So the bridge will be completely closed from, we'll see if this sticks, July 5th through September 1st of 2023 for the demolition of the remaining deck of the bridge and construction of new beams and a new deck.
Which I think they can do, because the state did really well with shutting down some of the interstate bridges and replacing them over a couple weekends.
They really did.
They did. That was one of the only projects that I'm like, wow, this went really good.
Yes. All right. The bridge will reopen to 4 lanes of traffic while crews complete sidewalks, protective walls, and other elements.
Okay.
Completion October 31st, 2023.
I don't think that's happening.
The finished bridge will feature 6 travel lanes, 3 in each direction, with a 12-foot center turn lane.
That's nice.
And 10-foot sidewalks on each side. Current TDOT construction plans do not include bike lanes, though NDOT has continued to advocate for the inclusion of a multi-use path on the bridge.
The interesting thing is there's no bike lanes on Broadway, so that's not going to happen. So,
Rail cars, people. Come on.
Let's be honest. All right, so a next one that we've talked about this a lot, and this is the state of Tennessee partnering with the University of Vanderbilt or Vanderbilt University, and they're doing this smart corridor. And it's pretty smart because there's over.
I was about to say, there's no quotations
cameras.
there. It's smart.
No, it's pretty smart. This is also where they did that test of all of the smart cars.
I wonder how that went
with each other. I don't know. I've been trying to find research on it, but I guess they're just not releasing it yet. But this is the I-24 smart corridor in Davison and Rutherford counties. We have Greg up really high right now.
So this is the area where initially kind of their first phase is putting a camera every 100 yards or so down this long stretch, 6 miles or so?
8 miles, yeah. I can't remember
and so they get a ton of data that they're collecting. And so now this is essentially kind of a next step of this. They call it the latest phase of the Interstate 24 Smart Corridor project. And this is the installation of, we'll cut to Greg here in a second, 67 electronic lane control signs over east and westbound lanes of the interstate. All right, so let's go to the interstate. Then we'll tell you what these bad boys can do.
So if I remember correctly, it starts basically past Smyrna a little bit, or right by this target, and then it goes for like a 6 or 7 mile corridor in between these two areas, between Davison County and Rutherford County.
Okay, so what this will do, these electronic boards over each lane can be updated in real time to alert drivers to lane closures or congestion ahead, which is kind of pointless because you're driving on I-24.
It's going to be congested.
Which means it's going to be congested.
Yes.
But they will provide a recommended speed limit for current traffic conditions, which you can look at the car in front of you and
4 miles an hour.
See what they're doing, and divert traffic to open lanes, or none of them, or connector roads as necessary. Connector roads might be the most helpful thing for those electronic boards because they could say it's faster to take Murfreesboro Pike.
Yes.
Like that would be helpful. The congestion and traffic control system is the first of its kind in Tennessee. It's a pilot project for many things in the future. The electronic boards may not drastically reduce the average commute time, but, quote, are expected to make the average commute time more consistent.
So instead of 46 minutes, guys, 44.5.
I mean, that could be appreciated. You don't know, if you're going to get to work in 25 minutes or 55 minutes, to make it a more consistent time will help people. People will appreciate that.
Hypothetically, if that happens.
So the installation and launch of the signs between mile markers 53 and 70 on I-24 is slated for completion.
That's way more than 6 miles.
I think the signs are going to use the data from a little bit ahead of time and send it to those signs. So the signs are covering a little bit more of a span. But I-24, this thing is slated for completion spring of 2023. Long-term upgrades to ramp meters, fiber cameras, and other improvements could be completed by summer of 2024.
And at that point, we may have the stadium at least semi-constructed.
This is about to say we will not have a stadium by then.
No. At least the first floor.
Yeah.
Maybe the foundation laid.
Yep.
All right, so this is a project that NDOT, so NDOT is the Nashville Department of Transportation. Don't forget, this is a relatively new organization within the city of Nashville.
The newest.
And this is not TDOT. So they've been working on this project now that we're about to talk about for probably 6, maybe 7 months, give or take. And these are the new bike lanes on 12 South.
All right.
Now, this is an area of Nashville where I can see the bike lanes being really utilized because there's a lot of people that live. There's a lot of residential over there. And there's tons of people that take bikes through 12 South. That just happens. So
there's a lot of people who take everything through 12 South.
That's true. So we have Greg, the Google guy, hanging above the intersection of Wedgwood and 12 South.
Oh, there's the polar bears.
The polar bears.
Let's show the polar bears. If somebody's never seen
the Edge Hill polar bears, they're all the way up here.
Oh, I thought I saw them at that little circle.
I'm going. Okay, Greg is going. He's almost there. There they are. All right, Greg, let's see the polar bears. Polar bears. All right, so there's polar bears. They're having a snowball fight.
Yeah. So polar bears.
Good old polar bears. But
So-
what they did on this street is they basically closed it down for a two-way road, and then they've condensed it to a one-way or a one-lane road with bike lanes on both sides. So that's basically all they've done, which is super nice.
Let's go to a rendering of this.
Yeah, so here's a rendering. This is right before the 12th Avenue, Belmont, or Wedgwood Avenue. So you can see the apartments on the left, Belmont on your right. And so this is what it currently, or some of it looks like this right now.
This project is also going to include, according to the Tennessean, bus stop improvements, pedestrian crossing improvements, including flashing lights, and then repaving and restriping the roadway.
Flashing lights, that's the thing to see, especially if you're towards the airport because it's so backed up recently. And one of the main reasons it's backed up is, first off, the construction at the airport doesn't help. And secondly, the construction that they are working, and they are
the
clearing
holiday season.
They are clearing ground like nobody's business.
Yeah, they've really gotten to work on this. Because they know they've been ready to do this for years.
It's been approved for 5 years, and
Yeah.
it took them this long to get to it.
Yeah.
And it's going to take 5 years to potentially finish. So Greg, the Google guy, is in a spaceship now looking down.
Ooh.
He has really good views.
I don't think the FAA would allow that.
I don't know.
I don't know how they
it's
let him in
backing
there in
up
the
right
first
now.
place.
So this is the corridor of the exit ramps of Donaldson Pike and where the Nashville International Airport is. And what they have cleared now, basically all of these trees do not exist any longer. They have all been cleared on both sides.
Mostly everything green that you can see in here is now brown.
It's
all
not
dirt.
brown. It's not brown. So they are working on this interstate exchange, and this is what this project is going to look like. We have an entire, I think, 2 episodes dedicated to this interstate exchange because there's so much work happening with this.
Yeah.
They're building multiple new bridges. They're doing new exit ramps. They're doing new light structures. So much work is going into this. But we won't see the full effects of how rewarding this is for multiple years. And then they're also
It'll be
relocating.
mostly frustration for 5 years.
Yeah, and they're also relocating Donaldson Pike. So you have to remember that too. Like this is a multi-million-dollar project that's a multi-year long thing.
Yeah. This thing's huge. Avoid that area as much as possible.
Unfortunately, I'm in that area every single day of my life.
Yeah, I was about to say, it will affect more of the Donaldson Pike crowd and the airport crowd more than the interstate crowd. The interstate crowd's really only seeing it just mostly because of the holiday season right now. We haven't seen the full impact construction can have on the entrance to the airport. I know they closed down several times the regular I-40 entrance to the airport because of busyness and opened it up on the Donaldson Pike side because it's a longer trail to get in, so they can kind of trail more cars behind it. But that area is going to be interesting for a long, long time.
All right, so another project that the state of Tennessee has been working on for a while. It's been probably at least 3 years already, and this is going to come to completion in spring of 2025. This is the I-65 north and southbound widening in Robertson County.
Oh, I've driven through this so much.
It's a mess.
Right now, it's not terrible.
But wait, give it 2 months. When everyone's coming back to town for spring break, it's going to be a mess.
Yes. So the hope is good with this one. They're widening the interstate to 6 total lanes, replacing 10 bridges and 4 overpasses, building 17 retaining walls. So, everything that's up to 65, that's almost to Kentucky in that part. Once you pass Gallatin and get out of there and you're going towards Kentucky, that is being widened. You see a lot of work in the middle of the interstate right now, but not necessarily on the lanes as much. It's not been too bad, but it's going to get worse because I experienced that. Because on the Kentucky side,
it's
basically before Tennessee announced they were widening the interstate, Kentucky for the last 12 years, just on the other side of the line,
has been working.
Has been doing that. So I've experienced that on both sides now, and it gets worse before it gets better.
So we just want to show the location where this is really happening. So basically I-65 passes Hendersonville and it makes this big curve, and then basically all the way up from Goodlettsville all the way up to the border of Kentucky. That's where that widening widening is happening. So it's a huge multi-million-dollar project. How much is it? $65 million?
I would imagine it's a lot more than
$160 million.
Yeah.
So not $65 million. So see, these are some of the roads that you need to avoid in 2023. Comment below any other road that you want to avoid just because it's Nashville and you should avoid it.
Yes. There are a lot of areas that are just, general sense, don't go there. You get trapped in downtown. You get trapped on other roads. So let us know what else is on your list for 2023 on roads you are going to avoid. For us, the list is pretty extensive, especially some side roads are getting just as busy as the interstates.
It's the worst.
You got to make new backways to your house now. Thank you for listening to Nashville Daily.
To learn more about today's episode, visit NashvilleDailyPodcast.com. And to stay connected, head to our Discord, and you can find the link at NashvilleDailyPodcast.com/connect. Nashville Daily is now offering tours. If you would like to take a tour of downtown Nashville, head to the link in the show notes or find out more details at NashvilleDailyPodcast.com.
Nashville Daily Podcast is an Explore.Nash production, copyright 2022.